name is Lara, not Laura. I always say, well, whenever I used to do this, someone was like, you shouldn't give people two names. That's way too confusing. Everybody's just going to say the wrong thing. So the point is, I don't care how you say it, just spell it correctly. So no you in there. This is me on the web, notlaura.com, at LaraS126, because someone named Laura has at notlaura. Just mildly frustrating. So here's me in my other life. I work at a pastrami shop on Avenue A. It's pretty awesome, called Harry Nida's. Just started doing that. Yeah, so it's kind of a cute little thing. I always forget to talk about myself at the beginning of a talk, so this is my little reminder. But that's cute. What's more important is WordPress. So I do the sandwich thing, but also am a freelance designer and developer. Is kind of my first profession, and mainly teaching now too. So I do a lot of teaching and tutoring, and like love helping people learn and breaking down a lot of these concepts and like the maze of WordPress and web development into more digestible chunks and metaphors, because as I'm sure everybody has experienced, there's so much to navigate through. And one of the major things is themes. So choosing themes. How many people have been really close to, I mean, I don't even know what, when you're trying to choose a theme, you're like, what do I do? Like, where do I go? How do I pick something that looks like this? How do I know what's good? Particularly when you have to pay for them a lot of times, and it's like, should I choose a free theme? But this premium theme looks a lot better. It's $60, which isn't that much, but am I gonna need to buy 8 of them? Like, anybody had those thoughts before? Probably. Nodding heads, excellent. That means I'm talking to a good crowd. So, let's start off with what this talk title actually should be, is that themes are a crapshoot and you won't get exactly what you want unless you build your own. Mic drop. Well, that's not so helpful, but ultimately I think a lot of this content I'm about to talk about is a little bit of a call to action to learn to code. If you really, really want something and have a specific mock-up in mind or something like that, you cannot make a theme. You can't like massage it into a form that's going to be exactly what you're thinking. So a lot of it's about working with the theme instead of against it to get what you want. So before getting into that, a small disclaimer is that it's probably an opinion, well, not probably, it's definitely an opinionated talk. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. A little bit of a public service announcement too. So it's like, think about these things a little more critically whenever you're choosing themes, rather than like, oh, pretty, love it. So, and kind of my impetus for talking about this too is that themes, whenever we're selecting them, are really inside a black box, like kind of literally if you're thinking about a server, right? Because all of the code that kind of determines the quality of the theme and what's in it is in PHP, like it's on a server somewhere, and you're not allowed to download the code and have a look at it before you purchase a theme. So fundamentally, just the way it works, you can't really see if a theme's good or not, and particularly if you're not a PHP developer. I mean, like me, I know some PHP and I do a lot of WordPress development, but half of these themes I look at the code under the hood and it's all this option stuff, and like I don't necessarily know what it does or if it's perfectly efficient or caching properly, all these things. So it's really in a black box, which is very frustrating as an end user, because the point of WordPress is to give us this dashboard and this interface to interact with and accomplish what we want to, but we also don't want to feel taken advantage of, or you're not sure what's happening. So hopefully with this talk, make it a little bit more of a transparent or lightly clouded box. That's the goal here. So to start out, get a little more empathy going here with the emotional roller coaster of theme selection via potential leaders of our nation. I had this as funny animal photos before, but then decided to switch up. So, step 1, phase 1, is you're kind of like, oh my god, I'm making a website, I can do it myself, it's only going to be $50, this is so great, like, beautiful themes, love it. Phase 2 is you're a little bit like, oh my god, there are so many themes, and they're pretty, but like, do I want parallax, or do I want a scrolling video background, or do I want one of those like click scroll to things, like lots and lots of options to think about, so you're getting a little crazy. Phase 3 is, hold on, I just purchased this theme and I can't figure out how to use it. Why can I not make this look like the demo, right? You get frustrated, like, am I supposed to buy 8 more? I don't know. Phase 4, now you're really mad. You're like, I want a refund. I hate this. I hate WordPress. I'm not going to do it. Very upset. Phase 5 is you give up. And you're like, forget it. I'll pay someone. I can't make this myself. It's not worth it. So, yeah, themes. WordPress themes. So anyways, that's been a little bit for today. So the way I like to approach building websites from kind of a custom standpoint, so as a developer, as a developer, someone who's pretty in the know like about front end and how things are done in like a modern way, mobile first, all of that stuff. Whenever I was writing this talk, I was like, okay, I'm gonna choose a theme like starting with content, because that's what all the cool kids are doing, right? Everybody's like, oh, mobile first, like start with your text, think out and go building up rather than thinking about visuals first. So this guy, Stephen Hay, gave a really good workshop. This was a few years ago now, but all about this designing content out. And so one of his big philosophies whenever you're building a website is to start with a big list of text and of URLs. I don't know, well, URLs might be my thing, but the idea is like get everything on paper, think about what you need and start gathering that stuff, and then have an idea of your content structure first before you go into building a Photoshop mockup and throwing lore myths on everywhere. And also, if you're working with a client, this is super helpful because you're like, hey client, I need a marketing tagline, I need a paragraph description of your company, fill out this Google Doc. So that's a great way to start. And also tracking, making a big list of URLs here. So you're like, okay, I know I need 4 pages, 3 of them are going to be a child page of about, I need a vendor, that's going to be a category, different categories for vendors, etc. This does not work when you're choosing themes. You could probably figure it out, it's definitely a helpful exercise, but I was literally trying to do a nice demo site for this whenever I was like, okay, I'm going to tell everybody about this process, I should do it and make sure it works, and it didn't work. So my new philosophy is to not start with your content, but start with the theme. So rather than getting all your ideas down, all of your content ideas and thinking in that way, and then building on that visually, just kind of trash all of that and pick a theme you like that's good, and then substitute your content in one for one with what they provide in the demo content. I honestly think that's the safest way to use a theme and have the least amount of headache. Doesn't sound that fun, but there we go. This is what you have to deal with. So you have an idea of what you want, and then you get there, and there's so many options. So how many times have you, well, hopefully this isn't just me, you go to the store, you're gonna buy cereal, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna get like the $8 healthy granola, and you're like, oh, but Reese's Puffs are so good. So you gotta think about that. Same thing with this here. So we have an idea of what we're thinking about, what we want, and then you're kind of sucked in by these pretty visuals, things like that when you're choosing themes. So has anybody bought this theme before? Creative, multi-purpose, responsive, best WordPress theme. That's kind of what they're all called, right? So the thing is, in theme forest, like a lot of these things are really clones of each other if you look under the hood. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how about this guy, Visual Composer? Anybody used Visual Composer before? Yeah? Anybody had problems with Visual Composer before? Yeah? So it's one of many page builders, and by page builder we mean something where you are dragging things around and like actually moving content chunks. So rather than working with what WordPress provides by default, which is the post editor, and that does not give you many layout choices unless you're using some kind of shortcode for grids, etc. A page builder like this kind of lets you do whatever you want. In my opinion, that's what Squarespace does. So use Squarespace if you want. Anyways, page builders, there's lots of them. So this is one that's like with a specific theme. Visual Composer up here was a plugin. This probably also comes as a plugin, but it's associated with the Salient theme. I don't know if you all have heard of that one before. And then here's another one, another kind of proprietary page builder. So a lot of these theme shops will build their own page builders and kind of send that out as part of their product. What this does is it puts you in jail. So you are not able to change a theme. If you use a page builder like that, depending on how it's configured with the plugin, like some of them may account for that, which is awesome. But in general, you're moving out of what WordPress offers, like the foundation of WordPress. And I feel the idea of theming is that you should have that foundation and then you can reskin it, like you re-theme it. But when you're using something like this, it's spitting out a lot of code that's very particular to that page builder. So if you try to use a different theme, you're very likely to have to scrap all of your content. So there we go. So what? Okay, here's our nice editor. Just a little look at like what this actually does here. So here's our regular default WordPress editor with a nice little indication of a couple plugin updates per usual. I'll get to those after this. So that's what we're given off the bat. Here's what this might look like with a theme, big time premium theme. So we've got, you should also install these other plugins, even though I'm not using WooCommerce or Instagram. And this is our beautiful visual composer down here. And it's not that bad to use. Like you kind of drag it around, it has a satisfying little snap feeling. But this is what WordPress is actually getting from Visual Composer. And so here this is the back-end editor activated, which go ahead and edit this. But this here is, so this Revolution slide, I don't know if you can read this text here. This is from another plugin and all kinds of dependencies happening here. And this, I mean, cool, go edit in the back end. So if you switch a theme, that's what your new theme is going to be seeing. It's probably not going to know what to do with it. Whoop. Okay, so again, it's kind of like, okay, cool, what if I'm okay with that? What if I'm okay with this proprietary theme ecosystem? Cool. The problem with this Visual Composer and page builder stuff is it's huge bloat. Depending on how it works, like some of them, again, like you can use it responsibly, I'm sure, but in general, you're going to get a lot of page bloat with this kind of thing. So with that in mind, I want to go through like a little bit of a case study, so like real life scenario. I'm doing a lot of kind of ranting and preachy kind of stuff here, but that's because of this wonderful website. So it looks pretty. Let's go check it out. It's over here. And so this website is built with the August theme, premium theme, and one of these Visual Composer things. So it's nice. It turned out well. It seems like it loads pretty quickly on my MacBook Pro in the most recent version of Chrome with excellent Wi-Fi. Nope. But if we look at what's happening here, so we have this main banner page. Sure, this slider is, or this video thing is using the Revolution slider plugin, and then I have my little posts here, which are actually called projects in the backend. So those are actually a custom post type called projects. Even though they're not projects, they're people. So that was a problem because it said related projects somewhere on the site. So that's hard coded into the theme, and you have to realize like not necessarily easy to change all that. But if I look in the markup a little bit, I see you've got lots of stuff going on here. And one thing, we're going to get more into the markup soon, but this is kind of the telltale sign of Visual Composer and page builders are these class names. So, and you can get to this inspector by right-clicking here, and you can say inspect element if you want. That'll help you, that'll show here. And we've got lots of kind of gross stuff going on here. But before I get too into that, finish my case study here. So, but what happened was, with this client, we had a mock-up that was created based on what the theme offered, which is great and like a wonderful start. But there were small things. So here, for example, they wanted this to be red, but on the main page, on the project page, it's not red. So can anybody think about what the problem's going to be there? Think about how WordPress is working. So this data here is the same data that I'm entering. It's the post title. And it's the same post title that's showing on the other page, but they only wanted one of them to be red. So if I was working in my own template or my own theme, I could just put a little bit of markup in the template and hard code that in, and it would change for everything. But instead, we had to go through the project section. Well, luckily, whoever was managing the content, it wasn't me, had to go through and add these span tags around every single of these 30 projects. because we needed to have that to style that text specifically, but not have it show up on one page. So just a small example of like, even if you're going in here and you want to, change the text for this button, in Visual Composer, that's on every single page, so you have to go through all of them to change that. So something to keep in mind there when you're thinking about any consistent elements across things and whether or not you're using an actual template. So, and once again, we're back to our beautiful Visual Composer stuff here. And the biggest problem though is performance. So when I use this handy tool, Web Page Test, has anybody seen Web Page Test before? Yeah, so Web Page Test is a performance testing tool for web pages, believe it or not. And you can enter a URL in, and it kind of runs it through this big vetting process performance-wise. So the average, well, I'm not sure what the average is, but the ideal speed index for a website is 1,000. That's very, very hard to get to. This is 7,000. So that means this website took 7 seconds to load. So if we look at a little film strip here, it's a cool thing we can do. Okay, never mind, we aren't going to look at the film strip. Sometimes there's a... So, 7 seconds. How many of you would be waiting for a website still after 7 seconds? Probably not. There's a cool, there's a good article I'll link to about the 3 kind of pillars of time lengths whenever for users and the user expected response. And after 1 second, people feel a lag time, so you feel like you're waiting. And after 10 seconds, you've just completely lost someone. So keep that in mind. And there's also a nice little thing that's like, what does my site cost here? And so this website costs 54 cents to load in Canada. Not great. So that's my little horror story about using one of these themes.
Can I ask you, could you use that in the demo of the theme before you purchase it? You could use that web test on there?
Let me get to that right now.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So back to my slides here. I want to introduce the solution to all of this, which is a big, huge checklist I made for everybody. So look through what's good. So bit.do/themes-ugh. And premium theme checklist. Does the theme cut it? Checklist for premium theme quality. So like I was saying before, first and foremost, plan nothing. So if you can, exactly like you're saying, run the demo through this stuff and look at the demo first, you're going to be much better off. So without further ado, let's keep this on the side here for reference, and let's vet one of these themes. So I'm starting out on best-selling WordPress themes, definitely something that makes sense to go check out. And if I look at this one called Bridge, actually let's open it here. So Bridge, and I kind of ahead of time picked this up. So go down to that one. So look, and we get a nice, obnoxious pop-up here, lovely. And when you're in a site like this, I definitely recommend going to the demos that are specific to certain use cases. So rather than just testing out the homepage, find a site that is really close to what you want. Because if we're going to do this process of like substituting content in one-to-one, you want something that's very as on as possible. Something you can picture, like, do I have content for this? Do I have text for this? Like, do I have a, let's see. Do I have a big background image of people drinking coffee that's really high res and pretty? And if you don't, then the website's not going to look like this. It's not going to be that pretty. So if we go to, I've got a good debate one here, which is, yeah, here we go. Since we're talking about campaigns. So first step is to look at, like before we get into web page tests, is to look at some responsiveness and kind of like vet some markup and functionality of the site. So if we go back into the inspector here, so I can do an inspect element, and this is in Chrome, Firefox and Safari have something similar. And I'm going to click this little icon up here, this device mode. So refresh, and this is emulating an iPhone 4, which I've selected up here, and I can select any other ones. But so this is what this is going to look on an iPhone. No substitute for looking at it on your real phone, for sure. But is this the kind of experience I like? I mean, you can't see too much on the page when I get there, but maybe it's kind of okay. Also, like, look at legibility. So this is super small text and not a lot of contrast with the background, so that's very bad for accessibility. I also have this arrow that's kind of overlaying on everything. And one thing you can do too, particularly with these sliders, is change the text here. So let's say I'm voting for not Brian, but put my last name in. So I'm voting for Schenck. This is what it's going to look like on an iPhone, right? So you want to think about what content am I actually going to substitute in there. And with the inspector and like the nature of front-end code, HTML and CSS, you can change these things around. And also notice all of these inline styles here. So this is really, really bad for performance and something that's happening from a plugin or from the theme and just for the purpose of giving you all these options. Whereas these adjustments could be done with a few lines of CSS in a child theme, or in Jetpack has a really great plugin for custom CSS too. So think about what you need to change here, and do you really need these options in the first place, or could you go something simpler? But yeah, we can also look at something important is the credibility of a theme. So on their theme forest page, they do give you some info. So when was it created? When was it last updated? So something, if it was created in 2008 and updated even in 2014, like what kind of update did they do? Did they update documentation, or did they update the actual theme? So there's a lot of variables there too. And a lot of the stuff is just salesy, but something to keep in mind. And yeah, so you can kind of go through these things. Also, a little bit more about code quality. So if we go back to our bridge demo here. Looking for inline styles, also majorly nested divs. So whenever a browser loads a web page and loads the front end of a page, there's something called the rendering tree, or the rendering process. So the first step for a browser is to render all of these divs and kind of parse all these divs, and then do the CSS, and then there's something called painting that happens. And that's when everything's put onto the screen and the layout is applied. So all of this has to happen before you see anything on the screen, in the browser. So if there's a ton of div soup like this, something to definitely keep in mind, it's going to be affecting speed a lot.
What if there are a lot of nested classes within a div?
So like classes or not, I guess when I say div, I'm referring to what we could call nodes.
Mm-hmm.
So a node meaning like here, okay. Zoom out a little more. Like this is a lot of wrapping divs around something.
Okay.
Like the amount of classes doesn't necessarily, I mean, depending on what they're doing style-wise, isn't part of what I mean for the soupiness. Okay. But a lot of these styles would way be better off in a class here. So something to look for. Also, how many scripts are loaded. So this is really a lot of scripts, and a good indication of traces of plugins too. So what kind of plugins is this theme relying on? What are they loading on every page? A lot of times you can't control what plugins you can't control where plugins load their scripts and style sheets without getting into the code a lot, which is why you use a plugin in a theme in the first place, since you don't do that. So something to keep in mind too. But I've done a lot of bashing on themes just now. So these are all kind of things to look through, but we'll look at a good theme. So there's a nice theme shop called Graph Paper Press. And that's another thing. Instead of going with something on Theme Forest, choosing something from a theme shop. It's still a premium theme, and also might be on Theme Forest, but in general, it's more of a chance that you're relying on it still might be like a single person in their bedroom for sure. But if it's a shop and they have this whole suite of themes, it's more likely you're going to get support, and that's something to really look into as well, is what support network, what's the documentation like for a theme too. So, but here, someone's looking at browser around. So let's just try this guy. We'll do a demo. Whenever you're doing this vetting process too, try to remove these little iframes. So if I copy this link and put it into web page test, sometimes this wrapper messes up how it interprets the actual website. So if you take out this thing here, you'll see the URL goes to a precise page. So sure, kind of nice here. Click around, see how it loads. Bring up your inspector. Another thing too is you can throttle the network up here. So if you configure throttling, Peter's chugging a little bit. I'm throttling here. I can say, oh, what does this load like with 3G? So I'll refresh, and not too bad. That wasn't terrible. If I go back to maybe my Mr. Bridge theme here, and look at my throttling, because 3G is kind of a reasonable, I mean, definitely seen a little 3G on your phone before, right? So, refresh. And waiting. Also, keep an eye out for if you see those little loading symbols. Those are not great because that's essentially blocking content from view until something is loaded. Whereas what you want is content on the page immediately, as soon as possible, so that someone doesn't walk away. Because there might be content under that loader, but you can't see it because it's giving the indication of loading, but it doesn't necessarily need to. So this. So if we look at the markup here, for example, something a little bit different. Still, oh man, this isn't what I was looking for. But if I open up my divs, I have much less soup going on here potentially. And we still have a few. Oh no, they're using a page builder too. Ah, damn. Okay. Well, that gets my point. Learn to code. Well, you can see browser on the Graph Paper Press does have some good ones though, and they're also working on another. It is like a page builder kind of thing, but I think those can be done well too, and more cleanly than giving you all of these options as something like Visual Composer does. So yeah, let's a little look at the checklist here. So this will hopefully be a good tool to reference in the future.
Can you hold that screen for a second?
Oh, sure. This one? Or... Cool. That's what we just did. Okay, so another thing I want to point out is, and this kind of gets into the debugging spectrum for free themes as well. So there's a variable inside of WP config called WP debug, and if you set that to true versus false, that will show you any WordPress errors or warnings that aren't critical errors that are breaking your site, but are not best practice things. So if you do that, you might see something like this, which is not breaking your site, but also means like, oh man, what are these people? These people aren't really testing things, they're not keeping up to date. So that's a good little vetting tool as well. And in that case, you may just need to turn it to false. So,
Where did you put that?
Oh, this goes inside WP config. So this is if you are...
You have that, that's after you get the theme.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this will be part of the...
There's no way to do that before.
Right. A lot of themes will allow like a 30-day return policy or 14 days or something too. So, and this isn't necessarily a make or break thing. If the theme is perfect otherwise, not something you need to trash it for, particularly if you've been working with it for a while, but not a good sign. Does that make sense? So final words. My humblest opinion. So for theme users, which sounds like a lot of us here, do not work from a mock-up. That's so hard. When you have, even if you're referencing a theme, like this, my little Climate 25 case study, even if you're referencing a theme when you make your mock-up, if you're working with people or you who's so set by what's in the mock-up and not open to being flexible about what's possible and what's going to take more time, then it's going to be a big headache. So let the theme dictate your design and content as much as possible. Yeah?
How hard is it to start like with 2016? Do you develop like a complex theme? Like
So, like you have to, it really depends on the use case. Like I would not child theme 2016 for something that was super, super complicated, but if it's something that required a lot of content filtering or like custom post types and taxonomies, I don't know if I would use 2016 as a child theme there, but for something that's a static, more storefront-y website, so an about page, bio page, portfolio.
corporate website?
I mean, depending on I wouldn't use 2016 for Bank of America, but depends on the page structure. But if you have content that fits into that idea of like posts and pages and categories and what WordPress gives you by default, I think could be a good option. Yeah.
When vetting a theme, do you think it's a good idea to look at peripheral things like if the theme has a support forum, and also something like their change log, how often they've updated and the stuff that they've fixed or added? Do you get
for sure.
peripheral stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like I was showing on here, looking at dates and scrolling, a lot of times they hide change logs, and I mean, all of these are going to be like, best theme ever. But looking through, wow. So it might be hard to find that stuff. But yes, and I think it's important that that's available, period. So, yeah, and like, if, all the better, and I feel like we don't see this enough, where there are premium versions of themes. So there's a free theme that's on I'm sure there are some of them, but having an open base of your theme, like for example, Advanced Custom Fields Pro does this, and a lot of plugins do this, where there's the open source base of the theme, and then maybe the premium plugin or package, something like that. But support and like changelog, dates, what are they changing? So are they changing text and README or actual stuff in the code? Very important. Oh, I kept forgetting to repeat
Got it.
questions, but cool. Anybody else? All right. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. So I'm going to say that I have another case study. You actually, with your presentation, was my life a month ago. I inherited a client site. It had Visual Composer. And I said to first of all, it took me hours to figure out what Visual Composer did. It was a mess. And the client, the first thing they said to us is, we want to be able to post in the back end of WordPress, but we can't figure it out. Because it was such a mess. I said, well, and I gave 2 screenshots. This is what WordPress should look like, and this is what your site looks like. And then I said, don't worry about it. We're going to take out Visual Composer, and we'll rewrite it. And after literally hours and hours, I was like, we're sticking with Visual Composer. Like, moving away from something like that, you are in jail. Like, I really felt like I couldn't get out. It literally takes over your site, and every page is built and designed by it. And some of this, whoever built it was just some stupid stuff in there, and it's crazy. So now we're kind of stuck with it, and I actually had to read the docs and figure out how to use it, which was just ridiculous.
I actually had to read the doc.
I actually had to read the doc. Then also, I like to use WP Debug when I develop, because sometimes I make mistakes, and sometimes you want to develop it. I can't use WP Debug with this website because that long list of notices you were talking about is all over every page. I can't even see the stuff that I'm developing. So you went me through this. I'm like, this was my life like a month ago. So now the site is stuck with Visual Composer. I let them know. And also, when I updated it, they were a year behind in terms of updates. And I had to go through the changelog in detail to make sure they didn't write things like major update, this may break, or make sure, because a lot of times, a lot of these plugins, I know Advanced Custom Fields had this issue. They did an update and then it broke a lot of stuff. So I had to go through all these things, and now like up to date and everything's fine. But they have to hope, and I have to hope that Visual Composer stays in business or doesn't issue some ridiculous update because they're stuck. They're stuck with it. So when you have any of these plugins that seem like they're very easy or come with 100 settings and options, you sort of are in jail, right? If you're checking boxes for something and pressing save, you're not going to be able to change because something else doesn't have those boxes anymore, and all your settings are gone. So just be aware of that. And the coding part and I'm saying because I do it a lot, but it's not that difficult to do a lot of these things. And just rip apart the themes. Take a look at them. a lot of stuff makes sense. And there's a consistency with some of these WordPress themes, not some of the crazy ones like Theme Forest, but a lot of those. So,
Well, fortunately, unfortunately, there is consistency on those because now half of them or more are like basically theming Visual Composer.
it's
So
crazy.
maybe there's some other ecosystem and you can change those things now.
Right. It's crazy. And you said you showed a notice where it said install these plugins as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, now you're not only in jail because you have Visual Composer. Now you're stuck with all these other plugins, and you have to hope that the developer just doesn't stop you doing that anymore, or something doesn't break and you're screwed. Yeah.
Do you have to install all the plugins?
Yeah. Some of them, I don't know if you have to, but some of them you don't get all the features because they're not building the theme based on their own. They're building these themes based on other features. And you really should separate design from functionality. Like you should separate that. But these themes are just. Some of this stuff's crazy. If I inherit a client and I have a theme or plugins from Theme Forest, I gotta go through this.
I would say, like with the plugins though, that site I was showing, it was prompting me to install a bunch of things I would not have been using at all. Like one was an Instagram widget, WooCommerce, which I was not making e-commerce site at all. And so if I'm someone who's new to WordPress and I see that, I'm going to install and activate all of them because I think that I need them. Don't.
And you don't want 30 or 40 plugins on your site.
That would slow down the load.
Oh, yeah, all those scripts. So like that big line of script requests I was showing, whenever you are loading a web page and you request a file, so your JavaScript file or CSS file, it's making the server do more work. So the server has to go get that file and bring it back. And who knows if these are even minified or written well, you make huge files.
And also, those are the ones. Those are the default ones that came with the theme.
Yes.
When you start activating plugins, some plugins, add to those. So, and it's normal to have 15 plugins. Like Heather, right? 15, 20. Some people, we've had people here who've had 70. But it's normal. You want to install plugins. You want to have some functionality. But when you have a theme that is already heavy and slow, adding plugins to it is just going to kill your site. And if you're going to have a host that costs you $5 a month, then you're screwed, right? You're going to need a better host for that kind of stuff. So.
One question. Yeah.
Isn't it just a good idea to avoid theme forest, period?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying about theme shops.
Yeah.
And even like Woo themes, something like that. If you can get in kind of the system of a larger company.
Yeah, like something like Builder or Genesis.
Those have, yeah.
Genesis, maybe. I don't know about Builder. Builder, Phil.
I don't know Builder.
I don't know Builder much either. Anyway, I think it's a good idea to learn how to code. I mean, a lot of these things are really, really simple to do. A lot of times you'll open up a plugin file and you will not believe how little code is actually in there, and you need to install this and count somebody up. Anyway, it's fine. And if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. Create a test site. Then you can use a $5 a month host, and now it costs you $5 a month to screw around and have fun. Yeah.
I just wanted to make one comment. The themes that come with the yearly themes, the 2016, 2015, all those, they have enormous support for learning basic CSS, learning altering things. There's a lot of support. Like I can't remember, it's the last thing was at 2014 where it all aligns left, and it's got the little featured images that'll run across the top. So, the typical things, you want that thing to align center. All the support there is really great from developers who use those basic themes. So someone who's learning coding, it gives you the CSS right off the bat to do it. So if you've installed a Jetpack and you have custom CSS, it makes it easy to learn that coding and easy to alter it, and they're good and basic, those things. They allow you to do all kinds of things and build on them and add your plugins. I just think they're great starter points if you're learning to code.
I think that's the base. That's the reason they put them in there.
Yeah.
So just so you know, most WordPress themes, and then remove JavaScript from it, right now, are based on HTML, CSS. They're written in PHP, and they have WordPress specific code. So HTML is not WordPress specific. You can go buy a book. You don't have to buy a book that says how to write WordPress HTML. You can buy an HTML book. CSS, same thing. PHP, same thing. And WordPress, you want to get that. But any of these things you can just search. You can just search Google. Everyone does it. That's it. I want to. How do I show the content in WordPress? Boom. And I'm going to give you a function. I'm going to give you the code. You plop it in there in your test site. You press save. You're like, oh my god, the content showed up. How do I get a title? Oh my God, the title. How do I change the date? Whatever, all those things. It is not a mystery. Like, there's so much information out there about this that you should be able to get this just by searching Google.
I have a question for Lara. Since you mentioned theme shops, how do you vet which is a good theme shop?
Same way, I mean, vet the theme. And same way you would do a theme forest theme, like look at, do they have the changelog, like what kind of support do they have? Run the themes through that web page test, look at the markup, do that device emulator, test out the responsiveness. So really the same way theme forest.
So you don't know of any review sites or forums where developers like yourself say, oh, this shop or this framework or whatever, it's pretty good, it's fast, blah, blah, blah.
I use Google.
Yeah.
I use Google. So I want to see, she just mentioned Builder. I'll go, build, WordPress Builder reviews. This is not a mystery, right? If you want to review a restaurant, if you want to find a good restaurant, a good place to shop, a good website to shop for, it's the same, it really is the same thing. And a lot of times I'll do that. Like I want to find a plugin, great WordPress SEO plugins. Usually 2 pop up. And and then I look at the reviews and I go to those sites and I check it out. Take a couple minutes to do it. It really isn't.
No, I know about the reviews and I've done that, but for something like a theme, getting a review other than the this is great, this is great.
Okay, now you're saying.
It's hard to
I'm thinking a
follow.
shop
Yeah.
more than a theme, yes.
It would be cool if there was
Yes.
like a reputable, yeah, Tom?
If you go on WordPress.org, they have a list of recommended theme vendors.
Oh, yeah? Okay, well, there you go.
And the bottom's not on. So, yeah, WordPress.org has a commercial area as well where they recommend theme shops. But I think that actually stopped. I don't think they accept applications anymore. But it's there.
I don't think they have premium themes.
No, they do. They don't have premium themes. They have links to premium theme shops.
So the idea of a theme shop is a company or some kind of entity that makes their living by creating themes and hopefully supporting them. So sometimes you'll buy a membership. Like I think that's the way Elegant Themes works. You buy a membership and you have access to all of their themes. Which is cool because you can the idea of themes, you can change it.
Mm-hmm.
And
usually if you stay in the same family, and if you're stuck with options, then usually they do carry over. They do carry over. Just be careful. All these pages, really the page builder thing is probably one of the most important things you mentioned. Like they're really cool and they're drag and drop and you can create really awesome, beautiful sites. But you are in jail. That was one of the best. I always say locked in, but that's one of the best analogies. You're stuck. This is it. This is your. You want to change your site. You're starting over in a lot of ways. I'm telling you, I cannot figure out visual composer. Too much time.
If you have a theme that just uses an implementation of pages and posts,
awesome.
and then you go ahead and you change the theme and it will still keep all your pages and posts?
Yeah, that's what the beauty of WordPress in its, at its core as a blogging platform.
So if you keep it simple, you can just...
Yeah, and there's a way, there are ways to use categories if you want to have posts that are reviews versus posts that are products, something like that. And you can customize the look of them based on the category rather than making a custom post type for everything or making completely different systems for all this.
Actually, the WordPress, the core developers attempted something a couple of years ago. Have you ever installed a theme and then you go add new post on the side, you see something called post formats? And there's a quote, an image, and video. So the idea behind that was that was a set list. And developers actually, I don't think we can add to it. We can, right? You're not allowed to add to it. You can't remove it, you can't add to it. And the idea behind that is that if I'm going to create a theme, and I'm going to say, okay, well, an image post format's going to look this way, and the video's going to look this way, and quote's going to look this way, any other theme that I install will work. We'll style it, we style it differently, but it's going to style it for those formats. I don't think it's taken off the way they plan, but that to me is somewhat safe. If you have a theme that supports that and uses that, any other theme you install that supports and uses that will work the way it's supposed to.
If you install blank vanilla WordPress and that's what the theme relies on, then go. And all your content's still there. You change the theme, then
All right. I think we do have to go. This seems like a pretty good topic. Maybe we'll have Lara back in the future to
Do like a round table.
do
That'd be
something a
kind of
little
fun.
bit more detailed. But I think obviously this is a pretty important subject.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys.